Hello everybody, my name is Tom Timbrooks. Well, Thomas W. Timbrooks, actually. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives, Oregon's 6th Congressional District in the Republican Party. I'm a Republican, this is Oregon. Wish me luck. This is one of many presentations that I'm making here on YouTube. My budget is zero, so I have to make do with what I can. Basically, try to communicate with the Oregon voters however I can. Make do with what I've got. So every week I try to cover something something new and interesting, something that's appropriate for the Oregon voter, for the people of the state of Oregon. So recently, something has happened in the state of New York, in Syracuse, New York. We've got a Micron factory that's being built. Now, I don't like subsidies that go to private enterprise. I do not like subsidizing private enterprise. I'm completely against that. I think any kind of government subsidies that are appropriated should go directly into infrastructure. Infrastructure drives progress. Now, I went ahead and did a search on the internet for any kind of information that might be applicable to what I'm talking about here, and I found some really good information, and I want to share that information with you. So let's get to the slides here. Yep, that's me right there. And make Oregon's 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district. That's my motto. That's what I want to do. I want to make our district really great. The whole thing is, I moved out to Oregon in 2019 for a job over at the Intel facility in Aloha. Pretty nice little place. I really like Oregon. I was living in Austin, Texas. I'm a manufacturing engineer, and job opportunity came open in Aloha, Oregon, and I was like, I really love Oregon. The waterfalls, the rivers, just the beach, all this stuff. It's absolutely beautiful. It's everything that Austin, Texas isn't. And I was getting kind of tired of Austin. I mean, it was a great place when I first moved out there in 2004. Really enjoyed it. But after 14 years, I could use a change of pace. So moved out here to Oregon, and Texas, being a very, very conservative, very Republican place, moving out to Oregon, it was a total change of environment for me. But it's actually not a terrible thing, because the actual political environment here is more suitable to what I feel is a good political environment for the populace in general, and that's where you have sort of a moderate kind of thing. We're not extremely Republican. If you get away from Portland, there is a lot of conservatism, but around Portland it's very, very liberal. Generally speaking, people all over Oregon are open to ideas and kind of discussion. There's a few radicals that really don't want to discuss anything outside of their own little sphere, and that's perfectly fine. There's a stoic philosophy where if you don't like somebody or something that somebody's doing, you either learn to live with it or you teach them. And I prefer to teach and present information. If people want to take the information, if they want to accept it, if they want to learn, great. If they don't want to learn, well, the information will always be there. And eventually, with age comes wisdom, and eventually a person gets old enough to accept that maybe some of the things they did were wrong and silly, short-sighted, and like that. And they become a little bit more open to. Eventually, everybody becomes a little more open. But this is something I really like about Oregon and living out here, and the people out here. Really decent people. So I like living in Oregon, and as a manufacturing engineer, I take a systemic approach to problem solving. And with problem solving, I see there are problems in Oregon, and I would like to solve some of those problems. And every week I find a new kind of problem that Oregon might have. And as an engineer, about 35 years in the community, what I found is the biggest problem, the worst problems that people can have are the problems they don't even know that they have. Every day you come across one of these problems. You drive around a pothole, you learn to deal with, here's some thing that's happening over here, and instead of actually fixing the problem, you just work around it. Okay, these workarounds, people are so accustomed to just fixing the immediate problem by working around it, by going around it, by just ignoring it, that eventually they don't realize that it is a problem. And these are the problems that all of my training over my entire career that I've learned to deal with. So recognizing problems, dealing with problems, that's what I do as an engineer. And a lot of problems that Oregon has are problems that Oregonians have just learned to deal with. And see, those are the biggest problems that Oregon has. So today I wanted to talk about government subsidies to private enterprise. And like I said, subsidies, it's not so much my belief, it's my observation. What I have observed through all of my research in economics, in pretty much everything political, is that subsidies, any kind of government funding, should go to the general good. And it's in the preamble to the Constitution. You have, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. That's bullet point number 5, promote the general welfare. And the general welfare that they're talking about in the Constitution is the things that government can do, the things that government can pay for that help you and me and everybody else to not have to deal with the problems that cause each of us to form some kind of a workaround. We got to take care of the pothole. That homeless person that's living in the alley, let's take care of that. That bridge that connects our town with the other town, let's make sure that bridge is working well. The roadways, communication, things of that nature. Those are the things that government is supposed to do according to the preamble to the Constitution. And the Constitution itself is just a roadmap for providing for what the Declaration of Independence states is human rights, the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Our Declaration of Independence, coming up on a 250-year anniversary of it, states all people have life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Our Constitution is the roadmap that the government uses to ensure that all people are have the rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So, that's what is meant by promote the general welfare. Don't spend money on somebody's specific welfare, spend money on the general welfare. And that means infrastructure. Infrastructure is a good thing. Now, there are other subsidies that do work, they can and do work, but generally speaking, it's a bad idea from what I have seen, all of the research I've done, all of the things that I've seen, generally speaking, a bad idea for the government to provide subsidies to industry. And I'm going to go over that today. This is a little slide presentation, the Cantillon Effect, how government spending shapes prosperity, infrastructure subsidies, and distribution of wealth. Okay, I'm sorry, I kind of said infrastructure, subsidies, and the distribution of wealth. Okay, so that's the way that was supposed to be said. When government spends taxpayer money, who benefits first and who benefits last? I'm gonna drink some water right now because I'm getting a little bit dry here. Water, that's good stuff. I really like water. I like Oregon water. Living in Texas, I had to get a lot of bottled water because seriously, the tap water, you know, they get it from the aquifers. The Texas aquifers, you look at that water and it's crystal clear, absolutely crystal clear. It's beautiful, comes out of the aquifers and everything. If you taste it, I don't know what it is. It tastes kind of like it's been stored in polymer. It tastes like you're drinking plastic. So seriously, I had to have like water filters and bottled water and everything. I very rarely drank water out of the tap. It was, I just didn't like it. Anyways. When government spends taxpayer money, who benefits first and who benefits last? And that's really a critical question to ask, because anytime the government takes your money, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, very last part of the Fifth Amendment, it says that the government won't take anything away from somebody without providing just compensation, and that includes money. I mean, that's your money. You worked for your money. Your money is yours. It belongs to you. Put it in a mattress, put it in a pile, do whatever you want. That's your money. The government comes along and says, we need this project to happen. This project is going to benefit these people. Therefore, these people need to provide money so that this project can happen. So that's your just compensation. Like let's say the government comes along and says you made $100,000 this year, you need to pay $40,000 in taxes. The government's going to take this much of it, and with that money, we're going to use that money to purchase aircraft carriers, nuclear missiles, tanks, airplanes. We're going to provide for our Army, our Navy, our Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Border Patrol, you know, all that stuff. All that stuff, you are paying for all of that stuff, and it keeps other countries from invading the United States of America militarily. I mean, they're still coming over the border and everything. They're migrating here. They're coming like that stuff. But yeah, if the United States military protects America, and a big chunk of your tax dollars are going to pay for the military. So that is your just compensation. You can sleep at night knowing that those F-16s are flying around in the sky, making sure that nobody is going to invade America. Okay, so that's your just compensation. But the thing is, sometimes the government spends money that you don't know about, and you aren't really getting justly compensated. You're paying for it, but you are not enjoying the benefits of what the government is paying for. And essentially, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about in this slide here. Who benefits first and who benefits last? You, the American public, you should benefit first, and you should benefit last. There should be no benefiting first or last. The only people who should benefit from any kind of government subsidy is you, the American people. The American taxpayer should benefit 100%. All of the benefits that come from the taxes you pay should go to you, the American people. Okay, so what I have seen, this Cantillon Effect, what it does, basically the Cantillon Effect is describing what happens when the government gives a whole bunch of money to the world's wealthiest people so that the world's wealthiest people will create some kind of token prosperity in some limited area. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about here. Constitutional question: how should government use public resources while respecting the rights of the citizens who provide those resources? And this is the Fifth Amendment. I just talked about this. Yeah, if you read the Constitution, you can get a copy of the Constitution. It's online. It's a PDF. I've got one right here. I got it right here. Section 5, Section 3. Oh, I got the amendments right here. See, amendments. This is my emotional support clipboard, by the way. Got to make sure this thing's clipped on. This is not AI. This is real. This is happening right now. Okay. So anyways, yeah, I highly recommend you read the Constitution. It's a great document, and it avoids, if you read the Constitution seriously, it'll avoid a lot of confusion, because I have had people say to me, hey, the Constitution says that America is supposed to have a revolution every 10 years, right? No. Constitution doesn't say that. And I've also heard people saying, where in the Constitution does it say the president has the right to attack some foreign country? So, well, that would be Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. That is the part that says the president is the commander-in-chief of the Army and the Navy. Okay, and that includes the Air Force, the Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard and Border Patrol also. Any kind of military force that protects the United States is under the discretion of the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States. And if the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, it's this latest attack on Iran, if the Commander-in-Chief of the United States recognizes Iran as a foreign enemy, or an enemy to our allies, which Iran is proving itself to be an enemy, well, pretty much to the whole world, then the President of the United States doesn't have just the right to attack Iran. The President of the United States has the obligation, the duty to attack Iran. So the president isn't doing this attack on Iran because he just woke up one day and he's thinking to himself, you know, I really have to invade Iran. Yes, that's good. He's not doing that. The reason the attack on Iran is happening is because the President of the United States, as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, is obliged, is required by the Constitution to defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Iran is a foreign enemy, an enemy to the United States and an enemy to our allies. Iran is being attacked because the president is obliged to do it, and he is authorized to do it under Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. So it's really a good document to read. It will avoid a lot of confusion. Read the Constitution, read the Bill of Rights, the amendments to the Constitution. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. And a lot of people don't realize that the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that was actually a part that was created because there were a lot of people in the Constitutional Congress, the original Constitutional Congress, that said, we will not sign the Constitution unless there is a Bill of Rights for the people, because they wanted to set limitations on government. And if you look at the Bill of Rights, everything on the Bill of Rights is a limitation of the government, except for the 10th Amendment, which is Well, actually, that is kind of a limitation on government. The 10th Amendment says if the federal government doesn't, explicitly have it stated as its job, then that responsibility goes to the states. So, yeah, that's the thing there. But yeah. Get yourself a PDF version of the Constitution, print it out, and read it. It's really a terrific document to understand, and if you understand the Constitution, you won't misrepresent it, you won't misquote it, and generally speaking, if you have an opinion about anything, it should be an informed opinion. Okay, you should do your research and look at stuff. Just go on Google, just go on the internet. Check out YouTube. Find videos. There are so many videos on YouTube with experts, people who know what they're talking about, and they will give you, they will present you with their information. Okay, and that's I get a lot of my information from books that I've read over my lengthy life. If you want to know how old I am, I'm infinity. Next year I will be forever. But yeah, it's just always, if you're going to have an opinion, have an informed opinion. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. I don't know enough about that particular subject to have an informed opinion. I should, so let me go and research the situation and I'll get back with you. Okay, that's perfectly fine. But just saying stuff and not knowing what you're talking about, that's something that you do when you're young and not very informed. Okay, so if you're young and not terribly informed, your opinions may not be as good, as valid. A lot of times young people will they'll start talking about stuff and they'll think that they're right, but really what it is they're just, they're in an echo chamber and they don't realize they're in an echo chamber. And so yeah, that's, anyways, I digress. I'm sorry. I do that a lot. That's how you know I'm not AI. An informed opinion. Informed opinions are the best opinions. Get the information, read the Constitution, great document, terrific thing. Okay, back to the Cantillon Effect here, okay? Like I said, the Fifth Amendment, Constitutional framework. The Constitution gives two guiding principles: promote the general welfare and protect private property through just compensation. Like I said, the general welfare thing, that is in the preamble to the Constitution, and the just compensation, that is in the Fifth Amendment. These principles guide responsible public spending, or they're supposed to. Why this question matters: government spending influences economic growth, wealth distribution, regional prosperity, and national competitiveness. Introducing the Cantillon Effect, okay? Named after the economist Richard Cantillon, who observed that the order in which money enters the economy matters. Those who receive new money first benefit the most. Those who receive it later benefit the least. Now, when I say new money, I'm talking about your money. Your money. You are sending your money to Washington, D.C. The people in Washington, D.C. are using your money to do stuff. And they are trying to promote the general welfare, but sometimes they forget about the just compensation part of the Constitution. So that's, I think what the Cantillon, this Richard Cantillon guy was trying to do was politely, not, tell government, hey, government, these people are providing funds to the government so that the government will do this. And it appears that the wealthiest people in the world are benefiting first. And the people who provide the funding through their taxes are benefiting last. Yeah, so maybe we shouldn't do that, okay? Maybe we shouldn't do that. Remember, this Cantillon guy, he was in France. And in France, at this period of time, this was a couple hundred years ago, this Cantillon guy, if he was to come up to the French government and say, well, this is really stupid, it's terrible, do this, he would have had his head cut off and his entire family would have been put on some prison island someplace. So back then they really had to watch what they said about the government, because the government had a way of eliminating dissent, okay? So I think what the Cantillon Effect is, it's just an observation by this Cantillon guy, and this observation basically states, if you use public funds improperly, well, what's going to happen is the world's wealthiest people are going to get wealthier, and the people who provide the funding are going to get less wealthy, is what that's saying there. So anyways, how money enters the economy. The new money, that's your money, your tax dollars, typically enters through government spending, subsidies, banking systems, and financial institutions. Okay, so the thing you're talking about is government spending. Your money is going to the government is spending it however the government wants to. The Cantillon chain. The taxpayers give their money to the government gives that money to the corporation. Corporations give that money to the suppliers go to the workers then to the consumers. Now you see, you are part of the suppliers and the workers and the consumers. So it goes from the taxpayer to the government. Okay, thank you very much for your money, taxpayer. From the government to the corporation. Ooh, hey, government, thank you for the money. This is how we are going to provide for your next your next election and everything. And this is one of the reasons that I have a budget of $0, is because I have never provided subsidies to any corporations. If I were to provide $1 billion to some corporation somewhere, that corporation would say, hey, you know what, he helped us to get a lot of money. Let's help him with his campaign. Yeah, let's provide like $10 million to his campaign so that he can get reelected, so that next year he can provide billions of dollars of taxpayer money to the corporations again. Yeah, I have not done that, and I refuse to do that, which is why I have a budget of $0 to use for my campaign. So yeah, that's why I'm here doing YouTube videos, okay? So yeah, so after it gets done with the government, the corporations, and the suppliers, you the worker, and that's most of the people who provide tax dollars to the government, the workers eventually get the money. After the corporations and the suppliers are done with it, the workers, they get the money, and with that money they go out and purchase consumer goods. Your Big Mac, your Quarter Pounder with cheese, they don't have the enchilada anymore. I miss the enchilada. I used to love Taco Bell food, but they got rid of the enchilada. Okay, each step receives less advantage, and there you are on the bottom as the worker. So you go through taxpayer, government, corporations, suppliers, so you're fifth. You are number 5 on the chain of who benefits from your tax dollars. So that's the Cantillon Effect. Basically, it's a polite way of saying the people who provide tax dollars are the ones who get screwed the hardest. So the early recipients often include corporations receiving the subsidies, government contractors, and financial institutions. These actors benefit before prices adjust. Later recipients are small businesses, wage earners, and consumers. By the time they receive the money, prices have risen. And what that means is pretty simply, when the government gives a whole bunch of money to corporations, those corporations, oh God, how does it? The people who benefit from your tax dollars, now they can buy really expensive houses, expensive cars, expensive everything. And all of the stuff that they purchase, because they can buy expensive stuff now from your tax dollars, everything goes up in price. Inflation happens. The price of houses. My first house was $78,000, and I bought that in 1996. Okay, 1996, I purchased a house for $78,000, and it was a nice house. 3 bedrooms, had a living room, a den, nice big kitchen. It was a nice house. $78,000. In 2002, I sold that house for $280,000. So I made a couple $100,000 off that house. I mean, now, I personally, I wouldn't spend the original $78,000 on that house, because, I mean, when I bought that house, it was about 12 years old, maybe 15 years old, right? And so, yeah, I mean, so the house that I purchased when I moved out to Oregon, the house that I purchased cost me $325,000. And that house was not very well built. It was not as well built as the $78,000 house that I purchased. The reason housing prices are going up is because supply and demand. Okay, people like myself, okay, I'm a manufacturing engineer, and one of the reasons that Intel could afford to pay me my salary is because the government came along and gave money to Intel. Okay, there's subsidies. The government wanted Intel to maintain its operations here in Oregon. And Intel is telling the government, well, there's people who we would like to hire, but we're going to need more money. So the government is like, how much more money you need? This much? Boom, Intel had the money, so Intel could hire me, and I was pretty happy about that. So I move out here, and Intel's giving me this really good salary. I can afford to buy a house, and because I can afford to buy a house for $325,000, the price of the house was $325,000. I guarantee you, if the government had never provided Intel or any other company with any kind of subsidy, the people working at those companies could not afford to purchase a house for $325,000, so the house price would not be $325,000. It would probably be closer to $100,000, $110,000, something like that, okay? So the reason that the price of houses is going up so dramatically, and the reason that there is a housing crisis, which I've covered before, I don't believe there's a housing crisis, okay? The reason that people can't afford houses is because people like myself are given a really good salary by a really good company, and I can afford an expensive house. So your average working person can't afford to buy the house that I was living in. And it's just because I can afford it. Prices are going to go up. When people can afford to live in a $325,000 house, when people can afford to pay for it, the price is going to go up. The price will go up to meet the market. And here's the thing. A couple of years ago, I went ahead and sold that house. And I didn't want to live it anymore. I didn't really much care for it. It was kind of... But the market was doing really well. It was a seller's market. And so I sold the house. And after living in that house for just like 3 years, I made like $130,000 off that house after 3 years. So I mean, I wouldn't pay the original $325,000 for the house if I didn't have to. Houses are going up in price. Things are getting extremely expensive because government subsidies are providing corporations with the money they need to stay in business and pay people like myself high salaries to get us to move out here. If there were no corporate subsidies, if the government did not give corporations the money to pay for people like myself, then the housing would be reasonably priced. Okay? Government interference in the Cantillon Effect, it is the reason that houses are so ridiculously expensive. Okay? That's one of the reasons for that. So if we were to eliminate the government subsidies to corporations, if we were to get rid of government interference in corporations, then housing prices would come back down to a reasonable level. So that's what the Cantillon Effect is essentially saying. Is it's a polite way of telling government that your assistance, you have good intentions, but you're screwing things up and you're screwing the worker over. So that's, I don't like corporate subsidies, in case you may have known. Okay. Later recipients, small business, wage earners, consumers, that's us. By the time they receive the money, prices have risen. Like I said, the price of housing is ridiculous because of that. Why prices rise? As new money enters the economy, demand increases, asset prices rise, wages adjust slowly. So you're not going to get paid more. It's just prices are going to go up. Credit will be made available to you, but it's going to be ridiculous. You're going to pay way too much. Real-world effects. The Cantillon dynamics often appear in housing price increases, asset speculation, rising regional costs. The important insight here is the Cantillon effect is not about good or bad policy. It explains how economic advantages are distributed, or in this case, how they aren't distributed. Distribution means you get one, 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 you get one. Okay? That's distribution. The Cantillon effect is basically you get everything and I'm going to turn my back and hope that you provide other people with something. Okay? And that is completely against the principles of the Constitution. We are not promoting the general welfare, we are promoting the specific welfare. And we are not providing people with Fifth Amendment, we are not providing people with just compensation for their tax dollars being taken away from them. We are taking money from the workers and giving them nothing in return. Essentially, so that's why America is like coming up on $40 trillion in national debt, is because the American government keeps giving ridiculous amounts of money to the world's wealthiest people, so that the world's wealthiest people will do stuff that makes certain politicians look good, so they can get reelected. Okay, so anyhow. Transition. Some government investments spread benefits widely, others concentrate benefits among early recipients. Let's look at the difference. Infrastructure and prosperity. Infrastructure creates the foundation for economic exchange. Two essential forms of infrastructure are transportation and communication. Both reduce barriers to trade. Prosperity increases when goods move efficiently and information moves quickly. The Erie Canal reduced shipping costs dramatically, connected the Midwest to global trade. Transcontinental Railroad created a national marketplace, accelerated westward expansion. The Panama Canal shortened global shipping routes and expanded international trade. Today's economy still relies on these systems. Actually, not so much the Erie Canal, but you get the idea. Transportation and communication. Yeah, the Erie Canal, you actually can't find any parts of the Erie Canal anymore because I think it was replaced with a highway. But still, the Erie Canal was something that happened. Anyway, companies like Amazon provide rapid delivery because of highways, rail systems, airports, and distribution networks that were established hundreds of years ago. They build on each other. Infrastructure has long-term effects. Transportation systems built generations ago continue to support modern economic activity. Communication infrastructure. Information is as important as transportation. Telegraph networks established the lines and towers for communication. The telephone networks enabled real-time conversation across different distances. Telephone networks built on the telegraph networks. Wireless communication enabled communication without physical wires. Communication satellites enabled global communication, and the internet dramatically reduced the cost of information exchange. The internet could not exist without the communication satellites, which couldn't exist without the wireless communication, which couldn't exist without the telephone networks, which could never have existed without the telegraph networks. So they build on each other. Subsidies, infrastructure versus corporate. Infrastructure creates opportunity, while with the subsidies, direct opportunity. I should have said corporate subsidies, direct opportunity. So infrastructure creates opportunity, corporate subsidies, direct opportunity. Targeted industrial subsidies. Governments sometimes provide incentives for specific industries. Localized prosperity. What that means, localized prosperity means the rich people up on the hill who live in that mansion, who have the governor and senators and people over for brunch, and they might fly off to some island and I don't know, do specific stuff. Those are the people who are getting wealthy. That's what is meant by localized prosperity. The rich people in your community who have got all the connections, they are getting wealthy. And that's why I've got $0 to campaign with, is because I'm not some rich person up on the hill. Jobs, construction, suppliers, but benefits may be geographically concentrated to the rich people up on the hill. Policy example, governments sometimes provide incentives to attract major corporate investments. Micron factory in Syracuse, New York. Now I want to talk about this for a minute. The Micron factory in Syracuse, New York. Micron is a great big company. It's a wonderful company. They make amazing, I've been in the semiconductor community for 35 years, engineer and everything. They make amazing stuff. They make memory chips. They're known for their memory chips, some other stuff too. But really, really big company, and there's going to be a lot of demand for their product coming up. So they decided, we're going to build a brand new factory. They got $100 billion, Micron, in order to, got a microphone, I gotta keep thinking about that, scratchy beard. So Micron, this great big, amazing American company, decided we're gonna build a new factory. They got $100 billion, $100 billion in private funding. That's shareholders, people who purchase shares of stock of Micron. Those are the people who are paying for this new factory to be built. And so the governor of New York found out that Micron is going to be building a factory. And so the governor of New York is thinking, jobs. I can provide jobs to the people of New York if Micron builds their factory in New York, okay? So what happens is the governor of New York goes to Micron and says, build your factory in New York State. And Micron is like, no. So the governor of New York is thinking, $12 billion. $12 billion is yours if you build your factory in New York State. And Micron is thinking, okay. So $12 billion of your money is going to the world's wealthiest people so that they will build a factory in New York. Now, they already had $100 billion prepared to build this factory. They didn't need any money from the government. They got that money from the government. Now, what does this sound like to you? Because to me, it sounds like the government is providing a bribe to the people on the board of directors of Micron. The shareholders, the Micron shareholders, are all going to benefit from this factory being built in New York, and the people of New York aren't really going to benefit. Because let's think about this now. There's supposed to be like 10,000 jobs directly. 10,000 people are going to work at this Micron factory. Okay, $12 billion is going to be provided to Micron. You know, the government's going to spend $12 billion to provide 10,000 jobs. That's $12 million per job. I know for a fact every person who's working at Micron is not going to be making $12 million. So they say, well, in construction jobs, there's going to be about 40,000 jobs also. So that's going to be about 50,000 jobs that's created. So the government is providing $12 billion to Micron to create 50,000 jobs in New York State. Well, that still comes out to $250,000 per job. The state of New York and the federal government together are providing enough money to Micron so that they will provide 50,000 jobs at $250,000 per job. You, the American taxpayer, are paying $250,000 per job in New York State. It would be cheaper for you, the taxpayer, to just give 50,000 people a $100,000 check. Just like, hey, let's not spend $12 billion. Let's just give each of the people who would have gotten a job at Micron or would have gotten a construction job, let's just give each one of those people a check for $50,000, and that will be cheaper for everybody. Seriously, it would be cheaper to just give the money away to these people. It really would. So that's the kind of thing that the Cantillon Effect is stating, basically, is the people who are going to benefit from these government subsidies are the shareholders at Micron. So the world's wealthiest people are going to get hundreds of millions of dollars that they're just going to throw it on the pile of money that they got in their living room. I mean, each one of these people has got a pile of money so high that if I fell off of it, I'd break both my legs. And these subsidies, they're just going to help out the world's wealthiest people. So that's the problem I have with these corporate subsidies. They don't help the individual worker. Those are the people that I want to help. Those are the people I want to take care of. Okay, so anyways, government incentives have also encouraged companies to adopt policies such as affirmative action, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And I don't like either of those either, because you're basically paying a company to do something they wouldn't do in the first place. Economists sometimes describe this as picking winners and losers. Subsidies may advantage certain firms over others. The Cantillon Effect in subsidies. Companies receiving subsidies gain resources first. Benefits ripple outward through the economy later. And anybody that's ever seen, you toss a rock in the lake, wherever you got the rock right here, the biggest waves are right there in the middle. And then when those ripples come out to you on the shore, it's a little ripple. It's just like whoosh, just like that, whoosh. When it comes to your money is being thrown onto the board of directors at Micron. The board of directors is getting all that money. And the money, when it comes out to you, is just like, oh, here's $2. Go buy a Pepsi. Yeah. I think, does a can of Pepsi cost $2? I think, you know what, I don't think you could buy a can of Pepsi for $2 anymore. Whew, man, anyhow. The Cantillon Effect helps us analyze who benefits, who pays, how wealth flows. Does a policy promote general welfare or specific interests? Well, it's obvious it's specific interest. The constitutional test for subsidies asks two questions. Do benefits reach the general public? Eventually. Are those benefits greater than the subsidy? No, they aren't. So the Fifth Amendment principle, the Constitution requires private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. And this is what I'm talking about. The Cantillon Effect is saying that your money is being used without just compensation to you, the taxpayer. Okay? Promoting the general welfare. Public investment should expand opportunities, strengthen infrastructure, and benefit society broadly. This CHIPS Act, Joe Biden President Joe Biden, I mean, I know he thought he was doing a good thing by doing the CHIPS Act, where he provides money to, see, the whole objective there, the semiconductor industry is a terrific industry. It drives all kinds of economic welfare, computers, memory, the AI, these huge data centers and like that. They drive economic welfare because, like I've always said, information, the most valuable commodity in the world is information. Without these data centers, without the internet, without communication systems and like that, that information would not flow. Information has to be timely, it has to be accurate in order to maintain its value. And so the fact that we have information flowing, that's a good thing, and we need to make sure that we have a domestic supply, domestically manufactured supply of all the computer stuff that is required to make sure our communication system goes on unhindered. We need that communication. We need the infrastructure to build that communication. Joe Biden realized this. He recognized this as a need, and so he went ahead and created the CHIPS Act. And the CHIPS Act is basically just a whole bunch of money that can be used to stimulate the growth of the semiconductor industry, or maintain the direction of the semiconductor industry, and keep that semiconductor industry domestic. Well, that was the intention. The reality is a bunch of rich people are going to have your money. Okay, and these rich people who are going to get your money, I mean, what are they going to do with it? They're going to get another gold-plated toilet seat on one of their, $20 million yachts, something like that. I mean, there comes a point where you can no longer spend all of the money that you have. So you do ridiculous, stupid things with it. You buy a skyscraper apartment in Manhattan. You purchase an island someplace, and I don't know, hunt humans for sport, something like that. I don't think they actually do that. I'm pretty sure they don't do that. I hope they don't do that. Yeah. But anyways, what I'm saying is that part of what a congressional representative has to do is make sure that the rules are maintained, that you, the taxpayer, are given just compensation for any kind of money that you provide in taxation. Okay. Taxation without representation, that's one of the early things a long time ago. You were getting taxed and not getting the benefits of the money that you provide to the government. Okay, so that's the whole nature of this thing here. Expand opportunity, strengthen infrastructure, benefit society broadly. That's what general welfare means, but that is not what corporate subsidies provide. So my closing thought here, understanding the Cantillon Effect helps us ask better questions about economic policy. Better questions lead to better decisions. Government best fulfills its constitutional duty when it promotes the general welfare. And that's my raccoon of ended presentations there. Okay, so essentially, the whole nature of this presentation is that I want the voter in Oregon to understand this. I want to represent Oregon because I see there are problems that have been created. And these problems that have been created in Oregon come from a government that has the best of intentions. And something that we have heard about the best of intentions is the road to ruin. The road to ruin is very often paved with the best of intentions. And the original quote is supposedly the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but if you research that out, you'll find that nobody ever said that, and it's not in any book anywhere. So yeah, so the road to ruin is very often paved with the best of intentions, and people don't go to Washington, D.C. with the worst of intentions. They're sincere. Everybody in Congress is sincere. They want America to prosper. They want their congressional districts, the people that they represent, they want them to prosper. They want, the best for every individual in America. And very often they have the best of intentions. And I find that if you look at all these members of Congress, they're saying, hey, ICE, for example, gotta have me a little more water. I also got a pocket full of cough drops. I'm old. Old people have cough drops and old people have tissue, because something old people have learned over many, many years, it's better to have tissue and cough drops and not need them than to need them and not have them. Listen to old people. We've been there. We've done that. I've lived for infinity. So I remember dirt. When they came out with dirt, I was like, seems like a pretty good idea. Let's try it out. There were a lot of people who didn't want to try dirt out, but I kind of pushed the subject. I was like, no, let's give this dirt thing a try. And as it turns out, dirt was a good idea. Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, people go to Congress with the best of intentions, and this is, if you look at the Democrats or Republicans, the Republicans have got good intentions, the conservatives have good intentions, the liberals have good intentions, Democrats have good intentions, and this is the way I approach government. If you look at the five pillars of government, you will find that there's, like I said, 5 pillars. Do you want large government or small government? What about the economic system? Should it be planned or should it be free market? Decision making, should that be local or federalized? The view of the person. Does the person exist for the person's own purpose or the purpose of the government? Things like that. These are the 5 pillars of any political system, how people, their personal beliefs. Now, nobody's personal beliefs are absolutely wrong or right. Everybody's personal belief has to be respected by the government of the United States. This is why we have Congress. This is why we have representatives. We want everybody's personal beliefs, whether you're liberal or conservative, to be respected. And this is something I always welcome any kind of discussion with liberals out there. If you have a problem with anything I'm saying, I want to listen to what you're saying, because as an engineer, the worst thing you could do as an engineer is exist in a vacuum, exist in an echo chamber where nobody else's opinion actually matters. The only opinions that matter are the opinions that echo your opinions, and those are the only opinions that you listen to. And eventually, you get a lot of progress done initially. But eventually, if you're going off course just a little bit and there's nobody there to tell you, hey, this isn't a good idea, that's when calamity happens. Okay, so yes, I am a conservative Republican and I support the MAGA agenda and all that, but I am willing to listen to anything anybody has to say about anything they want to talk about. Liberal, conservative, whatever. I would be your local representative. If you got an idea, I want to hear that idea. If you don't like the way something's being run, let me know. I will talk with you about it. We will find some kind of compromise. So that's what I got to say there. So anyways, these are my 10 things that I want to achieve if you guys vote for me. I support President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. I think he's done a great job, and I think if anybody deserves it, he does. He's been a great president, great human being. I think he really deserves it. I also support Tulsi Gabbard for president in 2028. I would like to see her run. I saw her run in the 2020 election thing, and I said, if Tulsi Gabbard is nominated by the Democrats, I'll vote Democrat because I liked what Tulsi Gabbard had to say. I support the MAGA agenda. I want to make America great again. I want America to be not just the greatest country in the world. I want America to be as great as America can possibly be. But mostly I'm a make Oregon's 6th congressional district America's greatest congressional district Republican. That's what I want to see. I want to see Oregon's 6th congressional district as America's greatest congressional district. I want everybody in the district to have a really good job. I want them to be prosperous. I want good things to happen for everybody in Oregon's 6th congressional district. And thank you very much for your time. I hope that this has been informative, and please vote for me, and God bless.